Call this special meeting of the Fayette County Commission.
Deputies up.
Call this special meeting of the Fayette County Commissioners order. Shall we rise for the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for coming. This is a special meeting only. The only topic, this is a special meeting / public hearing on the matter of reestablishing the Cumulative Capital Development Fund, which may be hereafter referred to as the CCD Fund. This is a public hearing. Ample notice and legal notice has been given. And even though there's no public here, there may someone come in. So for the people that are watching by television, I'll be a little formal here and read this. First part of this refers to the fact that there is a public hearing in the Commissioners Boardroom at 6:00 p.m. today for the reestablishment of the Cumulative Capital Development Fund under the provisions of Indiana Code 36-9-14.5, etc. The tax will be levied on all taxable real and personal property within the taxing district. It will not exceed .0333 per $100 of assessed valuation. Our current rate for this fund is .0232. That leaves us anywhere from that amount up to the .0333 that the board can increase this or choose not to. Having said that, I'll make a personal note here that once again, this is a matter that by statute and according to the Department of Local Government Finance is a responsibility of the commissioners. You're talking about a possible tax increase. Tax increases are almost always handled by the legislative bodies, which in Fayette County, the county council acts as the legislative and the financial board. However, this is one of those exceptions to the rule. So, it is obvious that from previous meetings and I've been watching that the county officials have elected or have expressed the fact that we have financial problems. The auditor and I sat down and it wasn't a lengthy meeting, but we sat down and looked at our current income, and if we match this rate out, the additional monies that we brought into the county, and these are approximate figures, would be around $55,000 a year. This year, the county will receive $165,465.62 deposited into the CCD fund. Next year, the projected, and by I say projected, I mean estimated figures that the state have given us, and these are always subject to change because they always give the caveat of estimated, would be $167,279. So you're talking about an $1,800 increase roughly. If we increase the rate to the maximum, that would be an additional $55,000 added to that, give or take a few thousand, because there are tax credits and different other funds that would be deducted from that. So, having said that, we advertise for we gave ourselves leeway in the advertising. We advertise for several different types of funds. The only one that is to be subject of this hearing tonight is the Cumulative Capital Development Fund with the rate of .0232. And this is under the authority of Indiana Code 36-9-14.5. I don't really know, since we don't have any public here, unless one of you two gentlemen want to ask questions, or if the media wishes to ask questions, please do. I'm not a technical person, so I'll refer that to the auditor if you have questions. Other than that, if there are no questions, I'll open it up for the board for discussion, and I'll answer any questions that I can.
If the rate increase, oh, sorry, go ahead.
August 1st deadline, we gotta have it done by August 1st or July.
Let me answer that question here, because I want to also give the, for those who are listening, I want to give the appeals process for this, if we decide to increase it. Don't let me forget. Go ahead.
If it was increased, when would it take effect? At what date would it take effect for the taxpayers of Fayette County?
If we do it by August the 1st, it takes effect November 1st or the January 1st?
This would affect next year's property taxes.
Okay. It would take effect January 1st.
And I did ask the question earlier to Frank, how much it would increase, and he explained that to me. How much per household it would be. Basically, it's, if somebody was paying, and correct me if I'm wrong, $23, they would now be paying $33.
Roughly, yes.
It basically would be a 10.
Roughly, yes. Mrs. King?
Well, I've done some arithmetic, and that tells me it's 2 10,000ths of a cent less than 1 penny. It'd be 98 hundredths of a cent is the amount of difference if you go from .0232 to .033.
They raised it almost.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's less than 1 penny.
I should, I guess, explain a little further. This CCD fund is used, it's a capital improvement plan, which means that, God forbid, our air conditioning system in the courthouse go kablooey, or there's some need for a building project of some kind. That's what these monies are used for. Quite frankly, and to be honest, that fund is also, it's a dedicated fund that can only be used for capital improvement, with one exception. The county council, in its authority as a legislative body, financial board, can borrow from that fund, and they've done that in the last 2 years to keep our cash flow going. Those monies have to be paid back in full by the end of the fiscal year. So it is, for the last 2 years, it's been a stabilizing effect on our cash flow. But other than borrowing from it and it having to be paid back by the end of the fiscal year, it can only be used for capital improvement plans. To answer your question, Daryl, let me read this. If there is an increase approved tonight, it has to be submitted to the Department of Local Government Finance by August the 1st. Now, for those who are listening, I want to be completely transparent, and I really don't like that word, but above board. There is an objection procedure for those taxpayers who wish to object to any increase we might approve tonight. And I'll read this in total. Taxpayers who are affected by the proposed cumulative fund may file an objection petition with the county auditor not later than noon, 30 days after the publication of the notice of adoption, setting forth their objections to the proposed fund. And I'll pause here and interject that the notice of adoption is the fact that if we approve an increase tonight, an official form has to be sent to the Department of Local Government Finance by August 1st, notifying them that we have voted to increase the rate. And then I'll go on to read, exceptions to the 30-day remonstrance period are limited to the cumulative building and capital improvement fund. These other two don't apply, other than the cumulative building for hospital fund, which is not something that we take care of. Only these two funds require a 10-day remonstrance period. So, and it goes on to completely detail the right of the taxpayers for the objection period. I think what I may do is have our internet tech expert to put all this on our county website. And if you go to our county website, there should be, within the next couple of days, hopefully, at least by the first of the week, there should be these procedures on there. If indeed we do adopt an increase tonight, then the public will be advertised. Also, it's a matter of public record. You can come to the auditor's office and get a copy of this for just a few cents. Go ahead.
Jane, I don't mean to put you on the spot. So, just so the public understands and I understand, If somebody paid $16,000 in property tax, what would this increase their tax levy to?
If they paid 16,000.
Just roughly $16,000 a year.
Hold on just a second. It would increase it by $161.60.
You're saying if they pay 16,000 in property taxes?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Just so the public can understand, when you put it to numbers, not saying they don't know, but, you know, it's kind of hard to understand the .33 and the 2.3 and where it's all coming into play.
Any questions from,
What would be closer to like $2,000? Because 16,000 is an awful lot of property tax.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how to think my property tax is 16,000, so those people's property tax is probably gonna be like 1,000 or maybe 800 and a half.
I just know a guy that has, his
Right.
property taxes are $16,000 a year, so.
That would be a good problem to have.
On your $2,000 example, it's like $20.
$20. Okay.
$20 additional?
Yeah, is that on,
I'm
is
sorry,
that on,
yes.
is that on property or personal property? Or is it on both?
It's on property.
It's on both.
Just, it's on both personal property and property?
If I can find it and all this stuff here.
I'm sorry, I just.
No,
No,
you're fine.
that's, we got all night.
Speak for yourself.
Okay. The tax will be levied on all taxable real and personal property
Okay.
within the taxing district and will not exceed the rate I gave you of the 3/3s.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Thanks.
Is there anybody else has any questions? The board, do you have anyone wish to speak? Ask, did I leave anything out? Anything else you want to make a point about or anything like that?
If she doesn't, I do. I don't want to steal the floor.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Sue.
Okay. We had a meeting a while back with the city and the county, and I just wanted to be clear to the Fayette County residents that we had a few people tell us that, hey, you know, just live within your means. Well, there is no more, there's nothing there to spend. You can't live within your means of something you don't have. And I've tried to explain this to the public as best I can. The revenue, and as Frank has said, the revenue has dropped off. The circuit breakers and the 1% tax cap, but is here, and the cost for the county to keep operating goes up. We haven't changed anything in what we're doing. We're just not out on a free-for-all just spending money. We don't have the money we had coming in 20 years ago because the population has dropped. So now we're grasping at straws, in a sense, trying to figure out how to make up next year's budget. So this is, you know, and like Frank said it right on in the meeting the other day, even though if we decide to raise taxes, we're also raising taxes on ourselves because we're Fayette County residents. So it's not something that comes lightly. It's not something that everybody wants to do. But it's like I told people that, you know, everybody wants the best roads, best streets, best police protection. That money has to come from somewhere. And if we don't have it, you know, they say, we'll start cutting. You know, cutting the government out, shutting sheriff's departments down and court, it's just not feasible because this is here for the public. It's here for everybody. And we have basically ran out of money to run the county government. It's just, in a sense. So, you know, it's not something we want to sit up in here and do. It's not something I woke up this morning and said, boy, yeah, I can't wait to get that done today. I don't like to do it, but I understand it has to be done. Something has to be done, or we're not going to be able to sustain. We're not growing. We're just not going to be able to sustain what we already have in place. So, you know, it's another euphemism is, or what I had told Frank, you know, and somebody was asking me, said, you know, what's this all about? And I said, you know, if you made $7 an hour 10 years ago, 10 years later, you're still making $7 an hour, but you need to make $15 to pay the bills. You go to your boss and he says, well, I'm not giving you $15 an hour. Then you go get a union to force him to pay you the $15. In a sense, you still have to, the cost of living has gone up. So you have to have a rate increase somewhere. So it's not that we just sit around and do this on purpose. It's something that has to be done. And I know I've probably tipped my hand in the card game that, you know, I pretty much think it has to be done. It's not our saving grace. It's not going to be the one cure-all, fix-all. It's one piece in the puzzle down the line that we're going to have to we're going to have to do until the end of the year, and the new administration is going to have to do next year to figure out how you're going to be able to control what you're doing and how the county runs. So that's my 2 cents. And I'm done. Oh, you on the floor.
Well, I agree with my 2 other commissioners. Nobody wants to raise taxes. It's not something that's a pleasant thing. And we've heard the story about you're going to have to give up a cheeseburger a month or something. And if you're not getting a cheeseburger to start with, it's awful hard to understand how you're going to do that. But if you own a piece of property and your tax is going to increase 1 cent on $100 worth of value, maybe you can go to the bank and borrow the money if you don't have enough. It just doesn't make any sense. And I received a letter, an email message from a friend of mine's son who told me how we could just lay people off like they did in private industry. Well, they've laid everybody off that they can afford to or that can keep the place running. We've looked at this situation in many different avenues, and there's no way to prevent it. It's a necessity and must be done, and no amount of screaming and hollering is going to change that fact. And he told me he wasn't going to vote for me the next time I ran, so that's not a big deal since I wasn't going to run again. But I want to say I appreciate his comments and the things that he wrote, that he had a right to his opinion, but it just shows how much of the general public doesn't know some of the facts and how much that the budget has been watched over. The county council has done a good job with cutting back. They laid off several employees. That layoff job's already been done down to the bare minimum, and everybody's doing more than their share. Nobody's been given a raise, and that's one of the things. I talked to the sheriff's department this afternoon about another situation, and they informed me that they've lost another deputy, and they're in the process of replacing him. He could make more money at Frontier than he can working for the county. So we have a serious problem here trying to keep employees because we're not paying them a living wage. And a newspaper article today was talking about all the money that the elected officials are making, and I found that very interesting. Well, according to somebody who wrote a letter to the editor, we're filling our pockets and helping our families, and I don't know who they were talking about, or...
I got to look up my bank account because I must have missed it.
Well, I told somebody that the only campaign promise I made when I ran was that I'd work full-time for part-time pay, and I'm keeping that promise. So if you've got a better idea, and if you can figure out some way that hasn't already been thought of and worked at by the county council, because these fellows sit here and spend many hours working very hard trying to make decisions to keep this county running and to keep it running at as small amount of money as possible. So all I know to do is I'll make a motion that we raise the tax. You've got other things to say?
No, I
Okay, we're not through with discussion? All right.
I want to make, before there's any motion, I want to make sure that people listening to this understand that there's no one from the public here other than 2 gentlemen. Only one has spoken. This was advertised plenty in advance. The date for this was set in our first commissioners meeting of the month. It's been advertised in the paper as prescribed by law, and it's been talked about quite a bit, I think. So I just want everyone to know, to understand that this is not some off-the-cuff meeting. This has been advertised according to the procedures prescribed by law, and it's been mentioned otherwise. Having said that, Mrs. King, when you make your motion, it should be, there's a special way to do it. This is for the reestablishment of the Cumulative Capital Development Fund, and it should be at whatever rate that the board decides. Quite frankly, I recommend the cap, because as I said, that will bring us in approximately another $55,000 this year. And before you make your motion, he wants to say something.
I know I said I was done talking, but I would also willfully request that anybody that would want to contact Leota and talk about how, people are not going to get reelected because they're going to raise taxes and we need to cut. Mike went to the president of the county council, very, very smart individual as far as how this all works. And he said it one day, and I would challenge anybody in the public that wants to come to the budget hearings and watch. It's open to the public. It will flat blow your mind at how much stuff that's mandated that we have to pay. That we don't have a choice. The state says you're going to pay this. So, if you want to know, come to their hearings. It's in the paper. Okay.
Any other comments? Do any of the council people here wish to speak? They had a meeting at the same time we did, and some of them have just now come in. So, if anyone wishes to speak, please let me know. Council President, okay. Okay, Mrs. King, do you have a motion?
I would like to have that piece of paper to read the motion so that I
It's
make
for
it
the-
correctly.
It's for the reestablishment of the fund as highlighted.
Okay.
And at the maximum rate, if that's what the board chooses.
We want to reestablish the CCD fund at the maximum rate.
And it's right here.
.0333 per $100 of assessed valuation. Proposed fund would be levied beginning with taxes due and payable in the year 2017.
Okay? The board has heard the motion. The motion is to reestablish the CCD fund, the Cumulative Capital Development Fund, at the maximum rate of .0333 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. Is there any discussion? Okay, no further discussion. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I need a second.
3 ayes. I'm sorry, did you second?
But that's okay. I was seconding it anyway.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 3 ayes. Okay? And no further business to come before the board because this is a special meeting. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for adjournment. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
3 ayes. We stand adjourned.